These are the books for people who want to read something and think that could happen to anyone, up to and including me. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am taking you through some of my favourite contemporary fiction, literary fiction that I think you definitely need to put on your TBR for June. Why do you need to put it on your TBR for June specifically? Well, I am one of the team captains for Team General Fiction for the amazing Readathon this year in June, which is created by Brianna from Four Paws in a Book, and I am going to be joined as team captain by the wonderful Cara from Cara's Bookshelf. On our journey throughout the world, we are going to guide you and we are going to bring you all of the recommendations that we have in contemporary fiction and in historical fiction, because those are the two genres that Team General Fiction are going to be focusing on. I have got about 20 books here that I definitely think you need to put on your TBRs, and I'm also going to highlight if you can get any bonus points from these, for example, if they are a host favourite or if the author is LGBT. But every single one of the books that I'm about to show you today is gonna get you 50 bonus points just for reading in your team's genre. Kicking off with Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is a host favourite. It is one of my host favourites, so that will get you another 100 GRC onto your total. This is following Daphne and Miles, who move in together after their respective partners, who had been best friends since childhood, end up together about 3 weeks before Daphne and Peter's wedding was supposed to happen. They decide that in order to kind of get their revenge on their partners, they are going to make it seem like they are in a relationship themselves, but fake dating never really stays fake for very long. This does have some romantic elements to it, but I would pretty much say that this is a contemporary slice of life story, so if you're on team romance, this might get you a couple of points as well. Watermelon by Marian is the first book in the Walsh Sisters series. There are 5 books in this one, and this is following all of the 5 Walsh sisters: Claire, Rachel, Anna, Helen, and Maggie. All of them are living very different lives. All of them are living very separate situations. Watermelon is about Claire, who is the eldest of the sisters and has just given birth to her first daughter. And on the same day, her husband serves her with divorce papers. So she moves back to Dublin to try and get her family support system going back up and ends up falling in love with a new co-worker of hers. I absolutely love this entire series, but my recommendation for you to go and try out is Rachel's Holiday, which is the second book in the series. It follows the middle sister Rachel, who is pretty much living a life of debauchery in New York. But when her parents start to notice that life is maybe getting a little bit too much for Rachel, they bring her back to Ireland and sign her up for the Cloisters, which is a rehab centre where hopefully she is going to face her demons head on. Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors is about Cleo and Frank. They are a couple living in New York, and there are about 20 years of an age gap between the two of them. And this really takes a look at their situation and just how different they are as people, but also takes a look at their surroundings and is pretty much a love letter to New York. Gail Honeyman's Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine follows Eleanor, who is living in Glasgow. She's in her late 20s, early 30s, and she lives a life of routine. She goes to work Monday to Friday, wears pretty much the exact same thing to the office. Every Friday when she comes home, she stops at the corner shop, gets a frozen pizza, 2 bottles of wine, and that is her entire weekend. As you read on in the book, you start to realise why Eleanor is so drawn away from society, why she doesn't really have anybody that's in her life, and why her weekly 10-minute phone calls with Mummy are pretty much the only thing going for her. One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid follows Emma. A year after she and her high school sweetheart Jessie got married, Jessie actually disappeared in a helicopter accident and left Emma's life completely in spin. A couple of years later, she's kind of finding her feet again. She is finding new love, except that one evening her phone rings and Jessie is on the other end of the line. It turns out he's not dead as previously thought, and he is ready to pick their lives back up where they left off. However, Emma is in a new relationship, she's living in a new town, and she's not entirely sure if Jessie can fit into her life anymore. Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid follows Hannah, who, in a kind of a sliding doors type narrative, goes to a party one evening and is in a car accident on her way home. From here, the book diverges in 2 separate directions. What would have happened if Hannah had gone home 10 minutes previously and had never been in the accident at all? And what happened after Hannah had been in the accident and her life and how it changed then? I absolutely love this story because I really love a kind of a 2 roads diverge in the woods situation. And if that's something that you definitely want to go and check out, this is really the book for you. Kim Ji-young, born 1982 by Cho Nam-ju, is translated from the Korean, and it follows Kim Ji-young, who is basically your every woman in South Korea. She is born in 1982, and from there you follow on with her childhood, with her teenage years, how she went to school, and the life that she is living as a married woman in South Korea. This is a really great look at everyday life for your basically everyday woman in one of the world's biggest economies. Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo follows 12 different women living very different lives across the entirety of the UK, and it is a real slice of life at what life is like pretty much from the entire north of the country way down to the south. Bernardine Evaristo is a queer author, so you will also get your 50 bonus points here. Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason follows Martha, who is really struggling with life at the moment. Everything feels like it's falling apart. Her work, her personal life, her marriage. So she heads back to her parents' place in its effort to try and bring a little bit of comfort and of peace to her situation. This book has really great bipolar representation, so if you're looking for a book that has a neurodivergent main character, I definitely recommend that you go and pick this one up. Normal People by Sally Rooney follows Connell and Marian, who are two young students in a school in the northwest of Ireland, and they are in a secret relationship with one another. It also follows their lives as they go to university, and the roles between Connell and Marian start to suddenly change. I really love this look at life in rural Ireland. It's obviously a place that is very dear to my heart as somebody who grew up in rural Ireland, and also a look at what life is like when you go to the big city for university and how much of a difference that can make on who you are and on your personality. This is another one of the host favourite, as it's one of Cara's host favourite books, so once again, if your funds are looking a little bit low, you can replenish your GRC with this one. The Shelf by Helly Acton follows Amy, who is going away on a holiday with her boyfriend and expects that this is the one that she's going to come back from with a ring on her finger. What actually happens is that he has signed her up for a show called The Shelf, which is going to break up with her for him and then turn her into the perfect housewife and the perfect girlfriend for whoever it is that follows him. This is such a great look at feminism and at women's roles and at gender roles and how imbalanced they can be. And it's definitely one I think you should go and pick up in June. It is so underrated. It really needs to have more people's eyes on it. Room by Emma Donoghue follows Jack, who's 5 years old and has never seen the world outside of a 12-foot by 12-foot room where he and his ma have always spent his life. It turns out, however, that ma had a life outside of Room, and she really wants to go and get that life back. Emma Donoghue is an LGBT author, so once again for Pride Month, you are going to get 50 points extra if you read this one. Another author who will gain you an extra 50 bonus points as they are an LGBT author is Kevin Kwan. Sex and Vanity is his first book outside of the Crazy Rich Asian series, and this is following Lucy and George. They meet each other at their friend's wedding in Capri in Italy, and they hate each other from the first moment they see each other. Lucy is pretty sure that her family, who arrived on the Mayflower and who now work in Wall Street, would absolutely despise George's free spirit. But she cannot get her mind off him for the entire wedding. And they actually end up having an illicit kiss one evening outside of the festivities. A couple of years later, while Lucy is in the Hamptons with her fiancé, she and George run into each other once more, and she starts to wonder if she's made the right decision. Spirit Level by Richie Craven is a fantastic debut novel. This is about Danny, who is 24 years old and he's feeling a little bit directionless in life. One evening, he and all of his friends go for a drink to welcome back one of their friends who's come home from a year of backpacking. At the end of the night, he and his friend Nudge go home in the car together. Nudge has had a couple of drinks, so he shouldn't really be behind the wheel. They accidentally crash into one of the canals in Dublin, and Nudge ends up losing his life in the accident. Danny is still alive, but it turns out that he can see Nudge's ghost wherever he goes, if he's slightly drunk. So Danny spends most of the book in a slightly tipsy stage trying to figure out why it is that Nudge is still hanging around and how he's going to get him to the other side. Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid follows Emira, who is a black woman that babysits for the really well-to-do white Chamberlain family. One evening when Emira is out at a local grocery store with their 3-year-old toddler, she is accosted by another shopper who thinks that Emira has kidnapped the child. When Alex, who's the baby's mother, tries to put everything right, a video from Alex's past really starts to put a brand new light on who Alex is as a person, and also makes Emira think that she doesn't really know who it is that she's working for. If If you've ever wondered what men go through after a breakup, go and have a look at Good Material by Dolly Alderton. This follows Andy and Jen, who have just broken up with one another after a 3-year live-in relationship, and you spend most of this book in Andy's point of view. He is basically going through the motions every single day of the 6 months that follow the breakup, and you actually follow this in epistolary form, so you get to see what day-to-day life is like for somebody who is going through a breakup, but also his career as a comedian is not really taking off as much as he wished it had. Oh my god, What a Complete Aisling by Sarah Breen and Emer McLeod is a series of 5 books following Aisling, a young girl from a very, very small town in rural Ireland who is moving up to Dublin to live with her boyfriend that she's been together with for about 7 years. At the beginning of this first book, they are on their way to a holiday in Tenerife, and she is pretty adamant that this is the one that she's going to come back for with the engagement ring. However, when Aisling and John actually get to Tenerife, all that they have is blazing rows every single evening, and when they come back, Aisling's life takes brand new turns that she never expected it to. She had always thought she was going to have the security of a home and of a marriage, but when it turns out that that might not be what's in store for her just yet, how is Aisling's life going to look after that? Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan follows Nick and Rachel. Rachel is an economics professor at NYU, and Nick is working in the English department, and the two of them meet at work and hit it off immediately. Nick has decided that Rachel is going to come back with him to Singapore to meet her family, but there is one thing that he has forgotten to mention to her. Nick is one of the young dynasty in Singapore. They are among the country's richest people, and he has got a huge empire that she knows absolutely nothing about. We meet with Nick's entire family throughout this series, and they are, to put it lightly, but we also see Rachel, who is American-born Chinese, trying to find her birth father and to find out a little bit more about who he is and why it was that he left her mother. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell tells the story of Vanessa. About 15 years ago, she was in a boarding school and had an illicit relationship with one of her teachers. At the moment, there is a big furore coming out about Staines and about all of the underage relationships that he would have been in with other students that he would have taught throughout the years. Everyone in the news is saying that this is wrong and that this never should have happened and that none of these girls were okay with what was happening. Except that Vanessa was totally fine about it, and there was never anything wrong with what had happened between her and Staines. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata follows Kiko, who has been working in the same branch of Smile Mart since she was 18. That is now 18 years ago, and she is completely content with where her life is right now. She loves the routine, she loves coming in the morning and getting everything on the shelves completely orderly. But everyone around her is just waiting for the next stage of her life to kick off. They are just waiting for the day that she is going to get married or waiting for the day that she is going to meet anybody. Kiko is just completely happy where she is until a new co-worker walks into the shop. The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa follows the housekeeper and the professor. Every morning, the housekeeper comes and introduces herself to the professor. His short-term memory only lasts for about 18 minutes, so he has basically no idea what he's been doing an hour and a half previously. Every single day, she has to meet him once more, introduce herself and her 10-year-old son who comes along while she's cleaning his home. But he keeps her son entertained with intricate mathematical equations that he can still remember from his days as a teacher. If you're taking part in Buzzwordathon this year run by Kayla from Books and Lala, this is actually going to fit into the June prompt because the word "the" is repeated twice on this cover. Lindsay Kelk's I Heart New York is an 8-book series following Angela Clark. She and her boyfriend were at a wedding one night when she accidentally walks in on him having sex with another woman in their car. She heads off for New York to try and find herself again and to basically get over the breakup that she's gone through. While she's there, she meets an entire new set of people, makes a whole new bunch of friends, discovers what New York is like, gets a fabulous job as a magazine reporter, and has a couple of dates with some really interesting native New Yorkers. There is a romance kind of running through the whole of this book series, but overall, this is very much a women's fiction book, just looking at a woman trying to get over what had happened to her before. Frederick Bachman has got some absolutely phenomenal books that you should go and check out. He has got A Man Called Uwe, which is about Uwe, who is about 80 years old and the most cantankerous old man you are ever going to meet. He lost his wife about 20 years ago, and ever since his world has been clouded in grey and in darkness. But that veil of darkness is about to lift as a young family and their children move in next door and try and inject a bit of colour in his life again. He has also written And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, which is about a young child and his grandfather who basically come and sit on a little bench every single morning and just keep each other entertained while they are watching the sunrise. There is also The Deal of a Lifetime, which takes place around Christmas in a hospital ward, and you are listening to so many prayers and so many thoughts for comfort from all of the patients who are around a particular person in their bed who is looking back over their life and wondering if there is any kind of mercy in store for them too. But if I was to put one book of Frederick Bachman's on my host favourite, I actually went ahead and put on 3. I put the entire Beartown series by Frederick Bachman onto my host favourite list because it is genuinely one of the best books I've ever read. It did take me a couple of times to get into this book about Beartown, a very small hockey-obsessed town in northern Sweden, and it is a bit of a difficult read because it does deal quite heavily with topics of sexual assault and victim blaming and victim shaming, but it is one of the most heart-wrenching books I've ever read. The other 2 books in this series, Us Against Them and The Winners, will also count towards the host favourite bonus, so for every single one of those books that you read, you will get 100 extra GRC. Another host favourite that you definitely need to check out is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is following June and Athena, who met each other in a writing course at university and have been relatively firm friends ever since. June has always been really jealous of Athena's success and the awards and the accolades that she has gotten from her writing, whereas June is barely meeting her advances with every book that she sells. One night, when June and Athena are celebrating one of Athena's upcoming accomplishments, Athena dies in a freak accident, and this gives June unfettered access to every single manuscript that Athena had been working on. She's going to publish all of Athena's works under her own name, but a pen name, because June is white and Athena is Chinese, and she had been working on a book about Chinese labourers during World War II. And we don't know if that's June's story to tell. With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo follows Emily, who is 16 years old and has 2 big responsibilities at home. Not only is she the carer for her elderly abuela, Emily is also a teenage mother and has a 2-year-old daughter that she is wholly responsible for. However, Emily has got one big dream. She wants to be one of the world's top chefs, and in the kitchen is where she can really let herself go. Of course, she's never going to be able to find the time or the money or the resources for her to be able to join her culinary classes trip to Barcelona. But maybe there is a way that fate can intervene. I Hope This Finds You Well by Natalie Sue is about Jolene, who is working in a big IT company and puts in little addendums when her coworkers are starting to ask stupid questions or when they have made stupid comments. She hides all of these comments that she makes in white ink so that nobody is going to see them unless they've highlighted everything. Except that one day, when she has really let her brain loose, she forgets to change the text to white. And everything that she has written in her head is now visible for the entire office to see. As a punishment, she is forced to work with the IT department to kind of clear up the entire backlog that they have. But when she is accidentally given access to every single email sent by every single person in the company, she might be learning a couple of secrets that maybe should have been kept away from prying eyes. And she might be getting a little bit closer to the IT administrator that she definitely shouldn't be getting to know that way. The Gunkle by Stephen Rowley follows Patrick, who is 42, and his best friend Sarah has just lost her life to breast cancer. Sarah was also married to Patrick's brother, and while his brother is in rehab for 3 months to overcome his addiction to alcohol and prescription drugs, Patrick is going to become the sole caretaker to their 2 children, Maisie and Grant. Those 2 children are absolutely adorable, and there is absolutely no way that this burst of sunshine is going to keep Patrick in that grim and grumpy mood he has always been in. This is the first book in a series. I will definitely be taking a look at the second book in this series across June, and also you will get an extra 50 bonus points because Stephen Rowley is an LGBT author. My Hot Friend by Sophie White is about 3 women in Ireland in their early 30s, Joanne, Claire and Lexi. All of them are in completely different situations to all of the rest of their friends. Lexi, for example, is starting to pull away from one of her friends with whom she had a best-selling podcast, but The editorial decisions that are being made by Amanda are not the kind of decisions that Lexi would like to make. Joanne is the first person of her friendship group to have a baby, and while her nights have turned into bottle feeding and waking up every 3 hours with the baby, all of her friends just want to keep going out clubbing and just want to keep having a good time. One of Claire's best friends is about to get married, and everybody else seems to be a bridesmaid except for Claire. And she's also starting to notice that the group chat that they've had for years is starting to dry up. Fate brings the three of them together and they decide that they are going to be each other's little girl gang. But there might be things happening in the background that means that maybe friendship is not what's in the card for this three. Heartstopper by Alice Oseman is one of the coziest book series that you could ever read. This is about Nick and Charlie, who are 13 and 14 at the beginning of this book, and they are in their final years of secondary school in a school in the UK. Nick is on the school's rugby team and Charlie is recruited as it is noticed that he is one of the fastest sprinters in the school. Charlie has had a crush on Nick for years and he's getting a little bit nervous about spending a little bit more time together. But Nick is also starting to unearth some feelings of his own and starting to question his own sexuality. This book series, which has 5 books out at the moment and a 6th book either coming out at the end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025, is so cozy. It is just genuinely a hug in a book, and all 5 of these books are definitely going to bring you out of any reading funk you're in. Ending with another host favourite and one of mine is The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. This follows Rachel, who is in her 40s and living in London. She's been in London for the past 10 or so years, but she's originally from Cork in the south of Ireland. She gets a phone call one day that one of her professors in school, Dr. Fred Byrne, is now in a coma and is not looking particularly likely to come through. This brings Rachel all the way back to her time in university when she had met Dr. Byrne, when she met her best friend James, who she was working with in a small bookshop in Cork City, and all of the things that had happened when Fred, who Rachel had had a crush on, actually met James for the first time, and the big rift that it brought into their friendship. This book is a really great look at what Ireland was like when we were just coming into economic recession in about 2008 to 2009, and it's also such a great love letter to the city of Cork itself. It can be a little bit of its time and place, but it is also highly accessible for so many people who will have gone through so many things that Rachel has gone through in her life too. Because who among us hasn't had a crush on a teacher? Those are all of the contemporary books that I think you need to go and check out this June when you are taking part in the Amazing Readathon and when you are reading for Team General Fiction. Have you already joined the Amazing Readathon yet, or have I managed to convince you to come and join us in Team Let's Get Lit? If you would love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, I would love you to leave a purple heart because purple is our team colour. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.